So class policies. Last sem was a little bit messy with 2233 because like I couldn't really get a good setup for the seat works because it seems like we spent more time on the pre-midterm and the midterm exam, so I put a lot more weight on there. That's why I'm trying to correct my mistakes last sem by giving you more seat work, so we can increase the weight of class standing, so it will follow the grading system here, so that the pre-final exam or activity will be lesser in weight. So 25% for pre-final, 50% for class standing, that's attendance and seat works, and 25% for midterm exam. That will be your total 100% midterm grade. The same setup for final, and then the final grade, or like the grade that will come out at the end of the semester, will be based 50% on your midterm grade and 50% on the, let's just say, what's that? Temporary final grade, something like that. So there will be like four major assessments. This will be pre-midterm, midterm, pre-final, and final, same as last sem. And the passing percentage is 60%. This is for our like pre-midterm, midterm, and pre-final and final exams or activities. So I'm still like on the fence of whether we should do like a multiple choice exam, because they're a little bit, they're not as good as like measuring for kanang whether you really got it, because when I switch between essay and multiple choice, it seems like when you do try to explain it without the multiple choice, it seems like the information doesn't get like fully transferred. Anyway, so if you have any questions on that, please let me know. But that's pretty much the same from last sem. So over here, really highlighting the objectives of this course. So at the end of this course, you should be able to describe, at least in simple terms, the planning process. And when I say planning, I mean like urban planning and regional planning, and the hierarchy of planning in the Philippines. We'll spend like a couple weeks on this. This will be the target, at least like until pre-midterms. And then you will familiarize yourself with infrastructure construction methods. So how are the streets built, etc. Just some basic processes. So you won't be like completely unaware. So that's something that is especially important in Cebu, because our infrastructure is really at maximum capacity, and you can feel that even during the pandemic we still have like traffic congestion. That's why we have a third bridge coming. And then finally, apply urban and regional development principles to your architectural design output. So that's really the main goal, so that all this information, looking at the big picture, feeds into your architectural classes, especially with our plate now, the commercial 6-story commercial building. Okay, so we have like schedules here. Week 5, that's September 13 to September 17, somewhere along that, we will have our pre-midterm exam. So that's an important week. If you'll be absent during this week, please let me know at least a week before, so we can like arrange a makeup activity. I am still have a couple of students from last sem, both 2233 and 3133, still making up because like they got INC. It just makes it a lot easier to keep things like in order. Next big important date will be October 11 to October 15. That's the midterm exam. So if you're gonna be absent, then please let me know. Okay, very big chunk of your grade. And the same for pre-final and final exam. So if you notice, the first half we'll be talking about concepts, which is basically what we did the whole last sem for AR2233, and then hopefully we can get through these fast enough so we can actually apply them in some kind of case study. So good so far? All right. So if you have any comments, please leave it here in the chat or like use your microphone. Okay. So class policies, we discussed that. So what is this promissory note thing? Basically, it's a note that says you will submit things on time, but if you can't submit them on time, you notify me at least 3 days before the deadline. So this is just so it's easier to keep track of your submissions. Nobody will be INC or kanang just better record keeping in general. So this should help both you and me, and then you will have better grades, and then for me, I have like easier time checking. Okay. So now we are here in the lecture proper. So connecting AR2233, which in my time was called Plan 1, but it's basically site development and landscape architecture was the name, I think. I don't even remember. Anyway, I'll just call it site planning. That's AR2233. And now you are in AR3133, which is urban and regional planning. And as the diagram suggests, it's basically the same process, but at a bigger scale. So the different steps of the process are the same. So step 1, we did something similar in my class in AR2233. Identifying stakeholders and the site. So who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders are anyone who will be impacted by the project. That includes the client, the designers, the people living in that area who will be impacted by your project, whether it be a building, a urban planning project like pedestrianization, an urban design project like street renovations, etc. So those are the stakeholders, everyone who will be impacted by the project. Next, the site. So your architecture students, you understand the site. Where is the boundary, the lot area? How big will the project be? So that's basically the site. And then once you have identified that, you go into analysis, site analysis. So that's basically identifying the problem and the objective. So similar to like what you have in your research format, this is your like chapter 2. So what is the problem we're trying to solve? Usually, the client in urban and regional planning is the government or like some public entity, and they're trying to improve different kinds of sectors in the urban fabric, whether it be transportation, I think mostly transportation, open space, like nature reserves. They want to plot out what would be a good space for a nature reserve, a public park, and all the other stuff here, like maybe updating the zoning. Apparently, Cebu City's comprehensive land use plan hasn't been updated for a while. Like I think some estimates say it's been the same land use plan since the 1970s, the Marcos time pa. So we really need an update on that. Wala lagi ka nang the funding wasn't secured, nobody really cares, or like nalimtan lang yun. Because of so much things happening. Water, like where are we getting our potable water? Sewage, where is the waste going? And of course, communications. Number one, I think all of us are feeling this, like the slow internet, no internet, like also like I forgot to write here, power, like electricity, brownouts, etc. So basically, we're moving on from looking at one single building to like the whole a whole barangay or a whole city or a whole region. Once you get to the regional scale, you're not looking at buildings, but you're looking at like population, socio-economic activities. So I'm trying to connect those who are at least in my class, that the elements of site development or a kanang site development plan, you can like simplify them into open space, circulation, and the building envelope. So open space refers to your like natural resources, your like trees, grass, unpaved surface areas. And then circulation means like how you move around on the site. That's basically described here. Your entrances and exits, both for vehicles and pedestrians. And then finally, you have the building envelope, your building massing. Okay. And then that sort of translates to urban and regional planning, but again on a much larger scale. And as I said, you have these items here. So the planning process, yes, I described that. So after identifying the problems and objectives, you create the vision, which is basically the design, what you want to do. You implement it once you have approval, and then once it's being constructed and it's done, you need to monitor and evaluate. So this is monitoring and evaluation is something that we can't really practice in the academe, in architecture school, because our projects are all conceptual. We can't build them. But this is more for like postgrads and professionals in the field, those who are on the ground on the field, that they need to like check if our interventions or designs are actually performing as they are intended. So here we have the planning objectives, talking about the comprehensive land use plan. It's it's like the guide that creates the zoning map. So the zoning map is based on the comprehensive land use plan, and the comprehensive land use plan is based on like studies like where are the socioeconomic activities happening in this area, and then specifying the appropriate zoning. And then I mentioned here the regional development plan, and both have links. So if you click on that link, it should open up. So short blurb on what is a comprehensive land use plan, and then over here is the latest version of the regional development plan for the different regions. So let's say, because I'm not sure how many people are from Cebu. Can you raise your hand? Oh, let's just say how many people are not from Cebu. Not from Cebu, raise your hand. Click the raise hand button here. So I'll check. So not from Cebu, huh? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 people who are not from Cebu. Nice. Type in like where you are on. Having unstable Wi-Fi. Sure. No problem. It's being recorded. So those who are not from Cebu, please tell me your kanang where do you live? No, not like your address, but what region are you in? What city do you live in? City and barangay. So we'll be using that information because I can give you a personalized kanang activity. So for those who live in Cebu, we'll be focusing on Cebu. For those who are living somewhere else, we'll focus on your areas, because we can, as I said earlier, we can apply the same process to any kind of site. Okay. So Monisha, nature reserves, So what I really wanted to highlight here is the amount of detail that goes into urban and regional planning. So looking at, instead of just looking at gardens, we're looking at parks. And sometimes open space can also be referred to like any unbuilt or any area without any buildings, like a public square. Even though it's paved, it will still count as open space. Circulation mostly refers to transportation infrastructure, and then kana siyang urban fabric, basically anything that's constructed, that's man-made. This also falls, city zoning also falls in here. If you Google quickly, the Cebu City zoning map is very low quality. I don't think we have a HD version of this. I've been trying to find one. This is, I think, the closest one we have. Kanisha. And then this is a land use map, existing land use, land use map, which is different from the zoning map. So let me just open that. Okay. So you can see the principal uses that can be seen in a zoning map: agricultural and agro-industrial. It's like green and blue respectively. Commercial areas are red and purple depending on the level. So commercial 1 means low density, commercial 2 is high density. And I don't know I still don't know what this means. Namu expand into the mountains, which is not actually a good idea because that will cause so many problems like flooding, rainwater runoff. So I don't know what's going on here. I think this is being amended, or they're still like discussing it over in City Hall. Industrial 1, light industrial. Industrial 2, like heavy industrial, is in black and deep purple respectively. Institutional usually comes in like the sky blue colors. These are our schools and hospitals. So you can see this light blue here, where my mouse is. That should be San Carlos over there. That's like the Talamban area. And then over here, that near the Fuentes Circle, over here, sorry, that should be what do you call this? The Chongwa Hospital and the different other schools and hospitals around here. And then you have national parks over here. This is where Barangay San Roque and Barangay Santo Niño is. That's where the Basilica, Plaza Independencia, and Plaza Independencia are. This is the North Reclamation, or South Reclamation is this one over here. And planned area, so it has a different zoning. And if you look here in the existing land use map, it's very small. So that's something that's really lacking in Cebu City. We need like updated and publicly available maps, because nobody knows what's going on in the city anymore. Like we have like general idea, but we need more details so that we can make decisions, better decisions for Cebu City. So let me check the chat real quick. Let's see, sir. Technically, I'm Apor. What does Apor mean? Oh yeah. So those who raise their hands, please let me know which city you're from, so we can sort of look at your publicly available zoning maps, see if they have a person traveling around for work. So you don't have a permanent address. Sir, did you mean Region 7, specifically Cebu City area only? Ah, okay. Okay. That's understandable. I mean like city lang sa, because then I can determine your region if I know where your city is. And if you're not in Cebu City, this is like I'm asking those who are not in Cebu City. Let me know where you are from, because like I'll try to align the lecture so that and the activities I mean, so that you can use your site, like places you're familiar with. And don't worry, Joanne, we'll think of something for you. We'll probably just base it on where you're kanang familiar with. How about Cebu provinces, sir? What do you mean Cebu provinces? Yes. Like if you're not from Cebu City, like you're from Danao or Talisay, kana siya. Kana. Okay, so that brings me to our like next point. Wait, where am I? It's already 5:54. Our next point. So you went through all of this: city zoning, water, power, telecommunications, waste. If you have any questions, please let me know here. And let's look at city map of Cebu. No. Map of municipalities. Municipalities in Cebu province. Here we go. So when I say Cebu City, I mean like Cebu City, the chunk here in the middle. Where did that map go? Open image in new tab. So we have Cebu City, Mandaue City, Talisay, City of Naga, San Fernando, Carcar, Sibonga, Argao, Dalaget. So if you're not in Cebu City, you're in somewhere else, but you're still in Cebu province. So this is a tricky thing. There's Cebu City and there's Cebu province. So let me know which specific city you're from, so we can sort of like learn more about the different parts of Cebu. Because for me, I've been living in Cebu most of my life. I went to Sydney for like 3 years, and I went to Sydney and like so many other places in the globe, but I have never been to Talamban, never been to Tuburan, Tablian. So I am not familiar, which is something that's really bad, especially if you're like if you're a graduate of urban planning. So this is this is this is on my bucket list. I would like to visit all these places so I can have like a better understanding of what's really going on in Cebu province. I think I've been to Bohol once. That's how bad. That's how little I travel. So Joanne might have a better experience or like a better understanding of what's happening in the region than I do. So we have Butuan City, Maasin City, Pagadian City, Cordova, Lapu-Lapu, and Bogo. So interesting. If you have some time, check out if your city has a zoning map and a land use plan, because apparently around 50% of LGUs don't have a comprehensive land use plan or a zoning map for that matter. So it'd be good to know whether your city does have it, and then we can use it for our class. Okay, so let me open this here. So show in Finder. So why is kanang boundaries and knowing which city you're from important? Okay, here. Because really, it's all about knowing where the people are located. Because when we know where people are located, then we know where is the priority that needs to be designed. Where are the priority areas that need to be designed? So over here, this is a regional profile made by the OCHA or OCHA. It stands for the United Nations Office of Coordination for Humanitarian Affairs. So this is a very useful map, and you have like a very good snapshot of what's going on, at least in this is this the whole region 7? Yeah, I think that includes naputol man ang Negros Oriental. I think Negros Oriental Occidental are part of region 7. This might not be like updated to like current standards. Or I might not be updated to current standards. I need to double check. But anyway, we're looking at mostly Cebu province, since most of us are from Cebu province. So you can notice over here that the most dense areas, meaning the areas with the most people, are really the kanang city centers. And then what we'll be exploring in the next week is like, why do people gather in these very small spaces? And then the quick answer for that is really economic opportunity, because in these in areas north and south of Cebu province, there's not much jobs, not much kaning commercial areas, and really it's those things that what they call this, attract people from other cities in the province to Cebu, Mandaue, and Lapu-Lapu. Is really that the money. For like, it's all about money at this point. So this is where economics comes in, and we'll be touching on that a little bit. And then part of economics is really kanang population and demographics. So this is sort of like an introduction to that. And then why is this happening? We'll talk a bit more about that in next week especially. But this is a very important image just to give you a snapshot of what's going on in Cebu province. So region 7, let's just say a big chunk of that is Cebu province. So from 2010, that was 3.97 million people. Let's go to the kanang where's this? Quiz statistics, because this is part of the quiz. Quiz statistics. So basically, the amount of growth, where is that here? That's like 2.07 million people in about the span of 5 years. So if we're gonna increase another 2 million people, so we'll probably be region 7, 8 million people. And then that's why I linked to a census here. I have so many tabs now. Let me close them. Excuse me. I linked to a census in our over here. So Cebu City, this is Cebu province. So if it doesn't say city, that means Cebu province. So from 2000, it's 2.1. Then 2010, 2.6. 2015, 2.9. And then 2020, the latest survey conducted last year, resulted in 3.3. So that's like almost a 1.1 million increase. So that's a lot of people. If you can imagine, what does 1 million people look like? So something like that. Imagine all these people, they come from different backgrounds. Most of them are classified lower income and middle income. A small portion of them are in the high income areas. They're all moving around, living not in the not evenly spread out in Cebu province, but concentrated in like specific areas: Cebu City, Mandaue, and Lapu-Lapu. I think those are the most populous cities in Cebu province. So how do you manage that? It's gonna be a very big challenge, and just getting the data of where people are, what they're doing, what their current situation is a big step in the right direction. So this where did that thing go? This thing is a very useful infographic. So let's see. Of the kanang 6.4 million, let's just say 2015, because it's what we have here. Let's say it will maintain in 20. It has maintained in 2020. So about 50% or half of the people are male, and then the 49.5% are female. This has implications for birth rates. So populations probably with more male than female might have a bit of trouble getting their like households together, something like that. And then an important thing that I was really surprised is that I need to define what poverty incidence is. But I think from a general standpoint, we can say that people in Region 7 are having more and more income, or they're like being lifted from poverty. So it went down from 35.9% in 2006 to now 27.6%. It's not a lot. It's about what's 7 12 7 1 2 3 4 5 no not 12. I think around like 8 points, 8%, about 8%. I can't do quick maths. So that's not a lot, but at least it's moving up. But it's not what do you call this? It can be improved. So a lot of people, you can still see, especially now during the pandemic, a lot of people are suffering. And then how can architecture sort of get in and help that problem? I think the number one way architecture can help solve that problem is really providing affordable housing, because we have so many people coming in. We are getting like 2 million people in the region, and about 1.1 million people in Cebu province only per 5 years. So that's a lot of people. And then the challenge for Cebu City, not Cebu City, Cebu province, is that, let me zoom in here. This is basically maximum capacity now for Cebu. And why is that? Because of our topography. This part here in the orange and yellow, that's steep slope. That's going to the mountains now. And it's not advisable to build there because number one, it will cause like the soil is not good enough to handle the weight of the building. And if you build here in our mountain regions, that will cause rainwater runoff, meaning our like rainfall is not being absorbed by the natural soils, and that will cause flooding here in the downtown area. So it's already like crowded here, plus we have like annual typhoons, so we're just adding problems. And then the other thing we mentioned earlier, that sewage is a problem in Cebu City, so that just causes more problems. So what will happen, what other teachers and my fellow colleagues in the planning profession, Cebu has no choice. Cebu province has no choice but to expand horizontally. So how will we like determine that expansion? Where will we expand? We need to communicate with Talisay and what is north of Cebu, north of Mandawi. I forgot that. This is where like information of Cebu province. Familiarity with the different cities and municipalities in Cebu is really something I want to improve. And then I'm glad that we have people who are like not just from Cebu City, so maybe we can get some information on Liloan, Compostela, and Danao. So it's probably gonna expand both up northwards and southwards down to Talisay, Mingnalilia, and Naga, because this is really built up area now. And then we cannot, although some people would argue that they would like to still build going into the mountains, it just causes so much environmental degradation, and then it's also not safe. So you're spending a lot of money to make unsafe buildings that will also cause problems for the rest of the city. So this is what I mean when we're looking at the big picture. Okay, so that's basically that. So now that we're here on the kanang quiz summary, so let's see here. Most of the people got this correct. For our class, planning is defined as an ongoing collaborative process of urban and regional resource management. So collaborative meaning it's not just architects who handle this kinds of problem solving. We need to talk to geodetic engineers, surveyors, local officials. So in the end, planning is very political, and not in the bad way, in the way that you need to communicate with different leaders, representatives to achieve a holistic and sort of comprehensive plan. So most of you got that, no problem. And I don't know why I didn't capitalize Region 7. So the poverty incidence in Region 7 is increasing, unchanging, stable, decreasing. I don't know why people said increasing. It's really on here. It's been decreasing. So wala sir sa katanaw sa map. So look at the infographic a little bit more closer next time. That's surprising. 41% said increasing. That's okay. You didn't know, so now you know. So compared to 2010, how much is the population increase from the 2015 census? So I guess most of the people looked at the infographic now and calculate it. Basically, just subtract. And now over here again, a little bit of arithmetic is just which city. Oh, this is not even arithmetic. It's just looking at which one has the highest 2020 population. So this is just to highlight that Cebu province is different from city of Cebu. I'm sure all of you know that, but just double checking. So 73% got it right. And then finally, in the Philippines, what document provides a guide for physical development of urban areas in national, regional, and provincial scale? So that's the physical framework plan. Comprehensive land use plan is for the local and urban scale. So let me go back to that in case that wasn't clear. So it's all here. So let me load that. Unless you had some problems na wala ni siya ni-load. Because this is the kanang hierarchy of urban and regional planning in the Philippines. So who does this? It's really kanang, I think the highest authority for this would be NEDA, the National Economic Development Authority. What does NEDA stand for? National Economic and Development Authority. Yes, I got it right. You can tell all these acronyms are really new to me because what they taught me in Sydney were the Sydney authorities, like the different Sydney councils. We don't have barangays. In Sydney, we have councils, so we can like talk a bit more about that on Monday next week. But this is basically what's happening in the Philippines. So it's divided into the physical and the socio-economic and then the investment programs. So remember last sem we talked about site analysis and we divided it into like physical, environmental, and like social factors. So this is what happened. The same thing is happening on the larger scale. The physical factors are being handled by people who study the physical framework at both the at the national, regional, and provincial scale. So at this level, they're looking at topography, the national highways, regional highways. How are we moving people from one point to another point A to point B? The shipping lines. So these are all in the physical framework. There was supposed to be a report, but for some reason I couldn't access it yesterday. But I'll like try to download it for you guys. The socio-economic report, the development plans are available here. So download this. We'll be discussing this in the coming weeks. You can download the pre-publication version here for free. Download here. Updated. So the previous version was the they do this like every one. How long is the what is the term of the president? Philippine president term. How many terms you have? Duration of term. I think that's 6 years. So every 3 years they update the development plan because they do it like every 3 years. Like they do the medium term plan. So the first medium term and this is the second medium term. So every 3 years of the run of the president. All right. So we'll go through like discuss this, dissect this, so we can understand what's happening at the national level. And then I think Region 7 has a development plan, but I couldn't find it yesterday. And then what is the purpose of the investment programs is basically the I have to use the word plan again of the government to secure funds. So it requires like both public and private sectors to contribute. Taxes is a big thing. This is where our taxes are supposed to be going, and then not in the pockets of our government officials, but supposedly to pay NEDA and all those different authorities to do studies, make these programs, print them out, spread them, inform the public, stuff like that. And then over here in the local and municipal levels, it's no longer the kanang physical framework plan, but it's called the comprehensive land use plan, because this is more specific. The framework plans are more kanang general guidelines, like where are the bridges, where they want it to go. But here you're looking at buildings, street blocks, street types. Where are the sidewalks? Where are the roads? What's happening with traffic, congestion, stuff like that? Where are the commercial areas, mixed-use areas? And then as I mentioned here, or like was it in the previous one, the trend now, like globally, is looking for mixed use developments instead of the traditional zoning where this block here is only commercial and you have to go like several kilometers away for the residential area. What happens when you increase the distance between residential areas and work areas? You create traffic congestion because the more people increase, like more population increases, the residential areas tend to like huddle together, and the same thing happens with commercial areas. So that distance, it's happening here in Cebu City, especially in the Talamban area. So we have here Talamban, and let me just switch to. Am I sharing my screen? Yeah, still sharing my screen. Okay, good. Let's say I live here in the Talamban area, a little bit up somewhere, if I can find it. Let me just enter. So somewhere here, up here, and then San Carlos is somewhere. I'm having troubles looking at the map. San Carlos. Carlos University Talamban campus. Oh, I was looking at a completely different area of the map. So this Talamban Road, Banilad Road, sorry, is really the only access for people living here in like Sunny Hills. I live further up here in where is Pristina North? I can't find it on the map. Here. Villa del Rio 1, Pristina North. And you notice these are all subdivisions. And they tend to gather together. We'll try to explain what's happening here. Why do same type of kanang building types tend to gather together? And a big culprit for that is zoning, but also there's like a behavioral and social aspect to that too. And then you have so many people here. It's ever increasing. Notice like let's say it increases like 500,000, maybe 100,000 people per 5 years, and then all those people tend to use cars, private cars, and then private cars transporting one or two people takes up so much road space, and then the effect is congestion. So the only solution really for not just for the Philippines but all the cities around the world is mixed use development. So bringing the residential areas closer to the commercial areas, the work areas, so they don't have to use the transportation infrastructure as much. They can walk or cycle. This is why we're looking for more transportation mode diversity, at least like internationally. In the Philippines, we still need like more roads, mostly because in Cebu City particularly, Banilad Road for example, this is the only road that connects the Talamban residences to the city center. So if you're gonna do some road expansion here, you have to close down this road, and then there's no other place for the people of Talamban to get to the city. So we'll need some kind of road, preferably not going into the mountains, but it seems like we have no choice because we have the MC Briones road here highlighted in yellow, and the what is this road called? The name is not popping up. I can't find the name. What is this road called? Anyway, this like west east-west road. I don't know what the name of this road here, connecting Balamban to Cebu City, is like maybe some kind of like north-south road connecting Talamban to probably this road here. But that really goes up into the mountains, and again, we don't want to develop our mountains because it'll be like ruining our kanang environment, increasing flooding, and risk of rainwater runoff as well as landslides. So this is really the problem here. So if you notice, our road network is pretty much kanang one way, like north, south, east, west lang. There's no like radial network. There's some minor roads here, but they tend to be like not as used. Let me just highlight a quick feature here. You can actually look at traffic. Here we go. So it reflects traffic live. So notice, because of the pandemic and it's not peak hours, there's a lot of green, so a lot of fast movement here. But if you would look at it during peak hours, this will turn all red, especially kaning Banilad Road. And there's like a red part here. I don't know why is it slow here along M. Cuenco Avenue in front of what is this? Nasipit commercial area. Probably because there's a lot of like residences moving up and down here. Also in front of San Carlos, apparently it's slow. Probably because jeepneys need to stop here. And that's another thing. So many things are like coming together, like how we use our jeepneys, how we use our roads, impacts how traffic moves in the city. All right, so we got Bugo City, Lapu-Lapu, and it's all recorded here. So that's basically what's happening, or like a quick overview of the kinds of topics and the kinds of things we'll be discussing in this class. The definitions of urban planning are like everyone knows already, and then how population impacts what an urban area is. We'll go further into that. Basically, more people means like more urban because you're living in a lot more like dense spaces. Excuse me. And then really, how do we manage the land with that many people living in such a small space? And that connects to how we manage our transportation, our power, our telecommunications, our build, and then finally, how do we design our buildings based on this? So, sort of to end it, connecting it with your kanang design project now, the 6-story commercial building. That's why we're trying to mix some uses in there. Like we have retail, offices, and a bank. Ideally, maybe we could have sneaked in some apartments in there, but maybe you could put that in your kanang design research. Like you could have one floor that's, you could say office space, but make it like rentable space, something like that. It will be up to your creativity. But that's like an extra step. If it's just, if your teachers require you to just make offices, then make offices. But those are the things we'll be discussing this coming sem, and I have a couple more links here. You can check them out. Like if you're still unclear as to what urban planning is and regional planning as well, you can check those videos out.